Live from the nation's capital, this is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Gatton. Breaking tonight, President Donald Trump says Israel and Iran have agreed to a complete and total ceasefire. This all comes after Iran launched attacks against a U.S. airbase in Qatar today in response to U.S. attacks on its nuclear facilities. Jeff Harris at the live desk with how this is all unraveling. Jeff.
Breaking tonight, Dee, live over Tel Aviv as all eyes are on Israel at this exact moment. The Iranian foreign minister says they have stopped all attacks in accordance with the ceasefire President Trump announced. As of right now, Israeli rockets have also halted. In a post on Truth Social, take a look here. The president congratulated both countries for their, quote, stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. Trump also telling NBC News tonight that he expects the ceasefire to last forever.
Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region.
Now, the ceasefire came just hours after Iran retaliated against the U.S., launching 19 missiles at the largest military base in the Middle East located in Qatar. All but one were intercepted with no military members killed. This is the layout of the military base, which could house up to 10,000 troops. President Trump thanked Iran for giving him and Qatar a heads up about the attack. Now, many experts say this was most likely an attempt from Iran to try and save some face.
For now, it appears Iran is on its own in the Middle East. Its allies around the region have been largely silent for now. Here's a map of Iran's proxies. You can see it there. That includes Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthi rebels in Yemen. However, experts say these networks of militias that Iran has spent decades and billions of dollars building have seriously degraded, especially after more than a year and a half of war with Israel. Iran also losing an ally in Syria last year after the ousting of the Assad regime. The Department of Homeland Security warning of a heightened threat environment following the United States strikes on their nuclear facilities. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us with more on the potential threats from Washington.
The U.S. remains on high alert following the weekend strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. NBC News reporting Iran warned President Trump before the strikes that they would activate sleeper terror cells in the United States if the U.S. dropped bombs on their nuclear sites.
Sleeper cells carrying out acts of terrorism here in the United States. The administration is being vigilant. Law enforcement across the country is being vigilant. But it is a real danger because we've had 4 years of open borders.
Border Patrol statistics reportedly show an increasing number of Iranians attempting to enter the U.S. illegally via the southern border.
The fact is, nobody, if they're speaking honestly from U.S. intelligence or law enforcement, can tell you, as a matter of fact, how badly we've been infiltrated here in the United States.
During the 4 years Biden was in office, at least 1,500 Iranians crossed over the southern border. About half were released into the U.S. with little to no vetting.
We know that some of those people were on terrorism watch lists, and this is one of the reasons why border security is national security, is if you let a bunch of crazy people into your country, those crazy people can eventually take action.
According to congressional Republicans, between 2021 and 2024, immigration officers caught 382 people on the terror watch list trying to enter the country illegally at the U.S.-Mexico border.
We're talking about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the list goes on, and all of these special interest locations have been able, under the Biden administration, to make their way into the country.
Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott reportedly issuing a memo saying the threat of sleeper cells activating on Iran's behalf has never been higher. On Sunday, the Department of Homeland Security issuing a national terrorism advisory, warning Americans to be on alert, including from, quote, violent extremists independently mobilizing to violence in response to this conflict. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Iran's foreign minister today in Moscow and says Russia supports Iran and condemns the U.S. strikes. This all comes after President Trump took a swipe at former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev for suggesting the Kremlin might supply Iran with nuclear warheads. Trump says Medvedev's comments were too provocative. He also mocked the Russian leader for no longer being the president. Vice President J.D. Vance says he doesn't believe Medvedev speaks for the Kremlin.
I think it's a bizarre response, but I also don't know that that guy speaks for President Putin or for the Russian government. They've been very consistent that they don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon.
Russia gets a lot of support from Iran for its ongoing war against Ukraine, and Iran is also getting Russian crude. Moscow was involved in the nuclear deal back in 2015 until Trump left that agreement. Taking a live look at the White House, where President Trump has hinted at a possible regime change in Iran, marking an apparent reversal in the White House's stance. Experts warn such a change could result in Iran's collapse. Trump posted on Truth Social that while it's not politically correct to say regime change, if the current regime doesn't, quote, make Iran great again, why not call for one? White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt clarified this morning that the U.S.'s military posture has not changed.
The president was just simply raising a question that I think many people around the world are asking. But if they refuse to engage in diplomacy moving forward, why shouldn't the Iranian people rise up against this brutal terrorist regime?
There's no guarantee a successor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would be friendly towards the West. A Gaman survey from 2022 showed that 60% of Iranians living in the country would be open to a regime change if it meant meaningful change would follow. We'll continue to bring you updates as tensions in the Middle East continue to unravel. Head to thenationaldesk.com for the latest information.